Well, I'm not sure to start this off, so I'll just start by saying how much I enjoyed playing Dispatch. It was very refreshing to play a game where it not only felt like they really cared about what the end product was going to be and how succinct the story and the gameplay would be. Which and what I mean by that is how the gameplay actually made it feel like it impacted the story, which I guess it does in a lot of games, but I guess in like these choice games, it really makes you feel like every action that you take actually is affecting the world, and it's a nice feeling to have, because obviously we're not actually in the world, but it's a nice feeling like you have some involvement in like the games and the stories that you're taking in. It's nice to feel a part of it. Now there is a couple points that I want to touch on of how much I love this game. So we'll start with the story. I think maybe it's just because I have very little recollection of the previous games I have played in recent memory, but the story in Dispatch I think is definitely top 5 for sure in all games I've played. Oh, but it's a bad comparison because I'm not remembering any of the games I've played right now. I'm judging it based on how many emotions and how involved I felt in the story. How immersed, that's the better word. I'll scroll through these choices to show everybody what I did while I'm going. But yeah, the story. I think what really is missing from a lot of stories in general, not just for games, like for movies and I haven't read a lot of books recently, but when I did, the patience to kind of let your characters be a little broken and not the way that you want them to be in the beginning in order to make them likable and relatable later on. Because I think what Dispatch does so well in terms of the character development is how they let these characters grow and how they're not already perfect or how they're not always broken in the entire story or one dimensional. Granted, there are plenty of medias and stories that are like that now, but it just feels like stories nowadays are a little. We want to get to the good parts really quick. We want to get to those parts that people are like, wow, the shock. Oh, they want to get to the shock factor first. That I think that is the good way of putting it. Yeah, getting like for instance Robertson, he starts out on the floor, kind of going on his own, and he later says, I think it's episode 5 or episode 6. It's episode 6. How he really thought he would die in the suit. He wanted to. He was doing Mecha Man kind of to just. Well, he also wanted to do good, but he was kind of going through the motions, going and not really expecting anything more out of his life than just his job, what he's been doing, what he feels like he has to do. And then as you go through these, you see that at the beginning of the series, he is a bit not standoffish, but he, depending on how you play it, I mean, no matter what you do, you kind of get to the end. It just a little varies, so the story is kind of the same. But he ends up enjoying and finding out that he doesn't have to be alone. He doesn't have to be in that suit until the day he dies, and he doesn't have to figure stuff out, I guess, alone. Yeah, not to repeat myself. And it's refreshing. It's really refreshing. And not just Robert Robertson. Let's see if I can get a picture of Invisigirl. No, I can't. But Invisigirl, I think she's the very prime example of character development in this game. I mean, I think it's self-explanatory, but if you haven't played the game, the she starts out. Oh Jesus! Well, really, the entire Z team starts out as all for themselves, doing this because it's their chance or they have to. I don't know the specifics of every backstory, but they start out as doing this for me, and I want to say it's around episode 4 or episode 3. I think end of episode 3, start of episode 4, where they start actually feeling like a team. And, you know, I feel like most stories nowadays would try to cut through to that. It does happen relatively quick compared to how long the game is. But it does it very seamlessly, I want to say. Like, obviously, they're not a perfect team. Like, oh, we overcame this, we can be a team now, we're perfect. They're now figuring out how to be a team and okay with the idea of working together and not just being out for themselves, which is nice. But specifically in Girl, she starts like that and she's like that for a bit, and then episode 4, they start. She starts feeling really heavily for Robert, and then I don't know specifically if that's what makes her change. Spoilers, major spoilers if you're not finished with the game. But you find out that she did work for Shroud and she set that bomb up. And you can see another thing that's really nice about this game is how well animated and how much time they take to animate the facial expressions. Because you can really tell what emotion they're feeling, and you can kind of put the story together as you're seeing it, which is nice. Even live action stuff, sometimes it's hard if the actor's not doing it on point. Yeah, and at the end, Girl, she eventually, like, depending on what you choose, comes around, does the right thing, and saves Robert. Actually, she saves Robert no matter what you do, but in one of the routes, she does it a bit more heroically. But yeah, there's plenty of other character development, but I don't want to spend too long on that. The gameplay, I touched on that a little bit already. The gameplay is really, really nice. It's not too hard to where you're not like struggling and trying to figure it out. Obviously, at the beginning, you struggle a bit, but as you go on, you get more and more used to it. And then the little story missions inside of it, inside of like the actual gameplay. If you've played the game, if you haven't played the game, you're dispatching each of these heroes to each of these crimes, and you have to best suit their stats for the crime or whatever's happening. And I think, because I think in this game, I could be wrong, they do it really well in terms of it feels like all those matter, except for that one coffee run. You know, if you know, you know. Because I feel like with a lot of games, the side quests, because this is essentially, the gameplay in this is essentially a side quest, kind of, except for that last bit. It feels like it's like filler. Like in a show, there's like those filler episodes. A lot of these side quests in games nowadays feel like filler, where, oh, well, we have to make the player want to do something. Let's go give them 15 fetch quests, or let's go give them this infinite quest that does the same thing over and over again. But with games like this, and for example, Cyberpunk, it really makes it feel like all these quote unquote side quests. It's not really a side quest in Dispatch, but some of them, it's kind of like the same thing. The reason you're playing this game is for the choices, not really the dispatching, even though the dispatching is really fun. It just feels like what you do in the dispatching section and in those side quests, I guess for Cyberpunk, matters and contributes to the world of the story, you know, which is very, very nice. Especially the episode 8 one, where you, spoiler, have to try to save the town. I forget what the town's called, LA or whatever. if you take, oh, I guess she, but if you take down Sonar or Coop, I just figured this out. You unlock the forgive or forget option, which is nice because I'll be honest, I nearly failed that, and I would have been very upset if I hadn't got that option and found out later that I did. Would have gotten it. But yeah, the gameplay, nice. Something else I want to touch on is, well, I already talked about that. I have this list because I go on tangents and don't really know what I'm talking about. The romance lines and a possibility of a season two. I wouldn't be that upset if there wasn't a season two. And only reason I say this is because one, it's very rare that a sequel turns out as well as the first iteration of it, which I'm sure it would turn out great because they have a bunch of people who are passionate about this project. But I would just be worried that it would be messed up, and the story kind of ended in a way that is fine and kind of wraps it up itself. Obviously, if there was a season two, they have plenty to work with because there's just so much more you have to do after. Like, the city's destroyed, there's cleanup, you could do a time skip. If they did a season two, or let me, before I talk about that, let me clarify. I would be okay if Dispatch ended here, mostly because it is such a wrapped up story. Robert Robertson had his come around, finally got his mech suit back, and Girl, depending on what you do, really came out and became a hero at the end. Chase, thank God, is gonna be okay. Which I guess that's the route they can go. They can figure out how to get Chase's rapidly aging, dying body to be okay. They have a lot they could go with. Now, with that out of the way, with a season two, if they did it, I would. I'm one of those people that really hates open-ended endings a lot of the time. Sometimes it's fine, but like there's show Full Metal Alchemist. At the end of it, after they wrap up the story, they do like a poster with pictures and stuff that shows they have a family, they grew up together, they're happy. Those are the type of endings I like. And if you do that, you can still make content in between that very far away ending you give, which is, convenient. But with the romance lines in this game, I feel like, yeah, you get together with one of them at the end, but especially with Invisigirl's route, there's still a lot you would need to work out with their relationship, because obviously it's going to be a bit rocky with the way that Invisigirl is, or Invisigal, not Invisigirl, and how Robert Robertson is, and how conflicting they are in terms of, well, I guess they're not that conflicting, but how conflicting they are in terms of, like, what I have seen in the game is how rash and, reckless she can be, which Robert Robertson can be. But he's a bit of a planner while she just jumps at it, and that could definitely present some issues with the Blazer. It could be her getting used to not having her powers for a bit while they try to figure that out. Those are good routes. I like having kind of it wrapped in a. It doesn't have to be wrapped up in a bow. I just want to know that the characters, what happens to them at the end, because obviously, if it's a good story, not everybody's gonna get like, hoo-ha, we all married and have kids. I mean, they can. It happens. Is if it feels like it's earned, which this game really feels like it earned everything it did, which is nice. That's my. Oh yeah, no, that was my next topic. I already kind of touched on it. But yeah, no, that I think. What else? What else? What else? I think the choices. The one thing that I do kind of have a complaint about this game, but kind of not, is how the choices don't really matter except for a select few, like this one didn't really matter. I don't know how this was a choice. I think this is just whether or not you fucked up. But yeah, I think episode 4 with who you go on a date with, episode I can't think of actually. I think it's just episode 4. That choice matters. Who you cut, that matters. And episode 8, I think everything you do in there kind of affects the ending. So I think. Actually, is it episode 7? Yeah, episode 7 and 8 have the most choices that matter. There's only, I think, 2 other choices prior to that that actually change the course of your game. Which kind of. I mean, it's a story game, but it feels more like a story game than a choice game. Don't get me wrong. I absolutely love the fact that you can kind of make the story your own little by little. But it's a choice game is kind of I mean, yeah, I'm kind of conflicted now that I'm saying it out loud. I think the story is fantastic. I think if they made a season 2, there would be a lot more choice involved. Unless they just mapped it out like, oh, it's gonna end this, like they did with this one. But yeah, I know I would love to get other people's thoughts on it, for sure. I am very curious as to how these stats work because these stats were kind of all over the place when they were coming out. Which was, yeah, like, see, like this one, you perform better than 1% of players into a shift. I don't think that's true. I'm pretty sure I did pretty decent, but I don't think I did that good in this game. Yeah, overall, I think that if. Well, no, because there was Expedition, I think it was 33. I know that game has a great story. Um, but yeah, I know this game isn't like super, super popular, super everywhere. It sold 1 million copies, which is pretty good. But I just know that if they decide, you know, to do season 2, I wouldn't be opposed. I would just worry that it won't live up to this one because this one just had such a good ending. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Um, I will show the rest of my choices because I like seeing other people's choices. So, then before actually, that's a good point. The writing in this game was fucking phenomenal. Like, it did not feel awkward at all. There were some that were obviously cheesy, but then they acknowledged that it was cheesy and kind of ran with it, whether it be one of the people pointing it out or or like someone just laughing at it or something like that. It was amazing. I think that's another thing. You have to have good writers to write it so it's not super cringe. Ugh, like saying the word cringe, you know. It's something that I aspire to because I would love to write something as well written as this because each character really kind of sticks to what they would do, which is nice. I know everybody has watched a piece of media where the characters do something completely out of character and it just kind of it breaks the immersion for me a bit. And everybody talking in this game just it feels so normal that I don't even question what they're saying most of the time. But yeah, thanks for listening to me. Bye.